That sounds like a challenge to summarize all, and I think we already had very good help from Emily, so thank you. So we will not, the two of us, I think, summarize all, but we have tried to identify a few subjects which we think have been talked about a little more essential than others, and we will try to invite you also to a larger or to some extent at least to comment on these. And the first one we would like to raise is, of course, the totally different situation that we are in now, mentioned by so many people yesterday, and not at least by Mr. Scarpetta. And I think he had a very good explanation of what is it that makes this situation we are currently in so different. It's a combination of mixture of so many factors. He mentioned, for instance, it's not only the number of persons, but for instance also the concentration of early entry points and the diversity of destination countries. The changing patterns all the time, and not at least because of new communication tools that exist today. And also he mentioned, for instance, the big number of lonely coming young people. And he also mentioned the parallel process of countries in crisis so close to Europe. And finally, he also mentioned the hostility that is a reality in so many countries today because of the situation with the immigrants. And of course, these things and many others put the public employment service in a very exceptional situation. And the challenges for our public employment services are maybe bigger than ever. My Director General and several others mentioned during yesterday that the Public Employment Service already has such a complex mission. Big organizations, already hard to manage, and this on top, of course, is an extra challenge. And it was also mentioned the responsibility we are expected to take in our societies, and can we cope with that? Do we have the knowledge? Do we have the resources? Do we have the tools to maybe more or less alone sometimes work on discrimination or contact the attitudes with employers, for instance? Mr. Scarpetta also mentioned that, and this was also mentioned by Emily now, I don't see you. Where are you, Emily? Yeah, thank you. This was also mentioned that people coming to our countries often that they have a low extent of networks, and that's why the Public Employment Service plays a special role. And our public employment services in most countries are found all over the country, so it's an access point maybe with another meaning, with an additional meaning, I should say. And maybe we haven't even seen the biggest challenge yet. I mean, in our case, we know that so many people arrived to our country last year, but it's only this summer that we expect a big inflow to the public employment services. So here we are thought of in a theoretical step still. We have some experience, but the challenge is really yet to come. We do have a country that hasn't made a presentation, but has a very long experience from not only working with refugees, but also with immigrants. So now I look for you. Yeah, thank you, Anna-Lena. Eve is right over there. Because United Kingdom has a long experience. So if I may invite you just to share with us some of your success factors, or what is extremely important in your context to make it possible for the Public Employment Service to work with this very challenging task.
Thank you. And first, I might stand up. First, I'd like to thank the organisers for putting on such an interesting and thought-provoking conference. It really has been a really good couple of days. The UK has a long history of migration and of integrating migrants and refugees through the labour market. But as discussed, the current volume of new arrivals poses new challenges. And we're really working at the moment to make sure that our PES is up to standard. So in order to integrate migrants and refugees through the labour market, our PES, the Job Centre Plus, has the freedom and flexibility to support claimants based on their individual circumstances. And we try and provide a really personalised service to all claimants, including those not originally from the UK. And this approach, being so individualised and personalised and a one-on-one tailored service, has previously been very successful. Given the challenges that the new influx of refugees and migrants present, as we've discussed, many come from quite traumatic background with experience of war. We're considering the upskilling of our work coaches, who, in order to allow them to meet the needs of the new needs that are coming into the country. And this is being done at the moment through mental health trials, where we're trying to work out different ways that we can bring mental health services into the Job Centre Pluses to provide that one-stop shop that Emily was just talking about. It's still in the trial phase, but the trials seem to be going very well. Another really big challenge that's across Europe that we're currently working on is the recognition of the skills and qualifications of refugees. It's been widely discussed over the last couple of days. And this is the challenge that the UK is also looking into. So our work coaches have already been provided with guidance about where to send those refugees and migrant workers who have qualifications. But we're also developing plans to set up multidisciplinary teams to gather skills and experience knowledge about refugees and migrants before they get to the UK, and notably those in the Syrian refugees, through the resettlement programs that are currently ongoing in the UK. So it's been very interesting, and I look forward to taking these ideas back to the UK. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you. You mentioned something that was brought up as a big, important issue during these days, and that is, of course, the assessment of skills. Tailor-made, individualized, but a question one must raise is, of course, does this only go for people that come from other countries? This is a service that should be provided by the Public Employment Service for any job seeker. So what do you say, Annie?
Yes, thank you. Some ideas, but you heard about it, of course, this morning and during these 2 days, but skill assessment is a really huge issue. And there's a specific huge issue in some situation of uncertainty in this specific context. It must be complete because it's very important for pathway, work situation, or going with work progression, as you explained. But it's really difficult because each refugees, and we meet this problem specifically this morning, is in a specific situation. So it must be useful, but it is in a really diverse situation with a really great heterogeneity of our public. So there is a lot of things that must be counted. We add information about what would be the methods, the tools, or formal, informal skills, evaluation, soft skills, which is of course very important. And soft skills are also linked probably with the courage of these people who had to go from their country to the destination, crossing 6, 7 countries. It's a really important way. Sometimes they are isolated, alone. Sometimes they are also in a network. And I think it was important we discussed this point this morning in our table. We don't know exactly when we are public employment services, if they are alone, if they are in a network. Information is not really complete about this issue. So we have to be systematic in skill assessment, as probably we built in our public employment services some new meals and new tools for guidance for our current publics and current users. But we have to be in a specific way because we have to link this stage, which is skill assessment, before and within work and training, within some important things which we'll discuss perhaps afterwards, which is a language issue, which is quite different also, because we heard something about how many hours to learn language in Norway, how to be quick in learning language for work, which would be a more simple issue, a more concrete and quick issue. So we have to target all these things with a lot of situation. And cooperative actions are very important for this point because cooperation with employers, and we told this morning, I think it's very important to involve employers for good reasons. CSR are good reasons. Needs of skills are good reasons. But all these projects may be a success for all the pathway we have to build. Simulation processes are very important for this. And it's linked with skill situation, and skill assessment must be a tailor-made approach, a diverse approach, but also a systematic way for public employment services for this integration. One idea also is for public employment services with the skill innovation assessment system. You have to build with these refugees, migrants, and progress and process of asylum. This innovation process have to be built with one or some of the things and process of innovation we have introduced in our public employment services since, I think, 10 years or 5 years or 2 years in some cases. So how to use e-tools for that? I think this issue is also for skill assessment a really great great topic. Sorry. One question I had also, it's that I think we focused, and it's very important, skill assessment within destination countries, within the countries where the refugees, migrants process its asylum is going on. One discussion we would be able to have also, and perhaps I will ask a question to Adriana, she's here, is what about transit countries, about information concerning skill assessment? Is it possible to build this issue step by step? So I think as Croatia is, of course, one of these transit countries, what would be your idea and your lessons from this workshop concerning skill assessment in your country, in this process of skill assessment needed, of course, for migrants and refugees?
Well, in Croatia, we had 800,000 people entering and leaving our country. And since Croatia has this trend of young people leaving the country, sometimes I joke, not even refugees want us, because there are only 150 asylum seekers so far in Croatia. For those people who stay with us, once they are registered with the Croatian Employment Service, they are referred to the language training, which are first of all they are referred to the language training, which are financed by the Ministry of Science and Training in Croatia, and there will be also an additional measure where the Croatian Employment Service is going to organize Croatian language training. And as far as skills and assessment of skills in the Croatian Employment Service, they are granted the same measures and the same services as other Croatian nationals. So what we do for them, since they are considered right away as a vulnerable group, they are eligible for active labor market policy measures, first of all as for subsidy for employment. So we offer subsidy for employment to employers. They are offered also financing of training or retraining, and they are included in public works. Regarding other services, we offer them individual counseling, group counseling, and assessment of skills as for any other Croatian national. Thank you.
Adriana? Elisabet?
I needed a language consultation there. Another subject that was very much mentioned yesterday gave me a picture of, well, I was influenced by Malmö FF and tried to make a picture of something that is important in sports, the combination of being explosive and at the same time have a lot of patience. Uthållighet was the word I was looking for in Swedish. The combination of the two, and it's applicable, I think, for this situation. Because early action does not mean the situation will be solved earlier. It's tempting to think that if I start early, I will manage quicker. It will be a quick fix if I start really early. But this difficult question is really the combination of explosion, early activation, but also being patient. To dig the gold out of the mountain will probably take time. And I think Mr. Becker gave an illustration of this very clearly, which was a little surprisingly, at least to me, the German experience, how much time it really takes because you have this long experience. May I invite you, Torsten, to comment on what Mr. Becker said yesterday concerning this combination of explosion and patience?
Yeah, many thanks, Elisabeth. I think for Germany it's very important to start early, but we have to find the right balance between starting and patience. And in our experience, we need about 1 year to integrate about 10% of the refugees, and we need about 5 years to integrate 50% of the refugees, and we need about 15 years to integrate 70% of the refugees. So it would be a good performance for Germany if we are a little bit faster to integrate them. But on the other hand, we have, you said it, you mentioned it, to find the right balance so that we find the right way to integrate every individual refugee in the job market. But I think the longest way begins with the first step, and we try to start early in Germany.
Thank you. Endurance was the word. Thank you, Eva, I was looking for. In the Norwegian example, it was very clear that early action will take a more prominent place, hopefully in combination with endurance then, as this seems to be the experience of a successful approach. Benedict, may I ask you maybe to comment on it? What would be interesting is to listen, what was the reasoning behind this quite heavy change? If you can answer or if you cannot, I know it's currently discussed in the Norwegian Parliament. But I would also like to invite you to use the opportunity to share some information about a working group that is set up in the European context on this important item.
Thank you. On the idea of early intervention, I think our government is discussing today in our parliament what's going to happen, and we see it's a very important part. Otherwise, refugees are demotivated and they do not enter the labour market in the end, so it's really important to start very early, we think. But on the working group, I wanted to share some information with you because last December in the board meeting of the European PES network, they decided to start a working group on the integration of refugees onto the labour market. And the idea was then to explore the PES voice on the subject and understand how can PES share and improve how they support the integration of refugees and asylum seekers into the labour market. And Norway is at the moment chairing this group. And with us we have Austria, Germany, Bulgaria, Finland and Spain. We had a working group meeting just now in May where we tried to discuss all the important topics related to integration on the labour market concerning refugees. And the idea is now to make a paper, a short paper, to be presented to the board meeting end of June. We are not going to actually make recommendations, but rather to describe what aspects are important to consider on the subject. And it's still work in progress, but I would just wanted to share the headlines with you, and this has been the same as we've been discussing these 2 days. So one topic which is going to be described is language training. Second one is assessment, recognition and acquisition of skills and qualifications. And then third one, collaboration between actors and sequencing of interventions and engagement with employers, of course. And then under each topic, we plan to list good examples from different countries so that we don't always have to go and look for new ideas everywhere. We're hoping to provide you with some good examples in the paper. So maybe it's a useful document. We'll see at the board meeting end of June.
Thank you. Thank you, Benedict. And the general directors of the countries belonging to the European Union, I think will already in their meeting in beginning of June discuss a first result of the working group, or at least they will discuss, of course, this extremely important subject. And finally, before leaving the final words to Annie, what this means for WAPES, of course, an assumption of these days is also we have to walk the talk. I mean, here we are from Public Employment Services knowing so much now about the infrastructure, about practical examples, but how can we in a more energetic way walk the talk ourselves? How can we, as Public Employment Services, as employers, act to employ people in different situations? How can we collaborate with others in a better way? Mentioned several times already. Somehow this first issue of having such a big responsibility, maybe we shouldn't only suffer from having this big responsibility, but also reach out our hands. The wonderful examples we heard this morning from Malmö FF and Jalla Trappan are extremely good examples, and so much good is happening on the ground, so much good every day in the real life. And we should never ever forget that it's about individuals, it's about persons, and we all have a big responsibility to work for a better society. So of course we as Public Employment Services also have to ask, how can we walk the talk even better? And I'm going to leave the floor to Annie to express what this means for WAPES, because it's already in the strategy, like our Turkish the presidency already expressed that in the strategy of WAPES, migration is a main issue. And third time, before I leave the floor to you, I will leave the last word to Annie, that's why. I would like to say thank you, of course, to all of you for coming, because we can produce programs and papers and all kinds of things, but when people come together that things can really happen. So thank you all for coming to Sweden, or for Swedes coming to Malmö to make this event possible. It's when we meet things can happen. It's when people come together things can happen. And some people in this room, of course, played a bigger role than others, like David, for instance, over there. Could please raise David? Oh. I ask you now, you are very polite that you give hands of applause, but I will call on so many, so you can give a nice round of applause when I called on everyone, okay? But David, you keep standing up. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of your neighbor now. Leo is also very important. No, okay. Okay, that's good. At this table we have Eva and Anna-Lena. Please raise, please raise. We have Paula somewhere. Yes, there is Paula. And these are people who have facilitated while we have been here to a large extent. But of course this program, it's a lot of work, you know, behind this program. And the program committee we have been very happy to cooperate with Austria and Martina. Martina, please. And with Dirk from Germany. Sweden has, of course, played a certain role in the program committee, and Margareta and Ulf and Rebecca and Lena, please, you have also worked very much in the... And then we have the smooth operators. The smooth operators, that is really Amelie and Anki. I call you smooth operators, can I? My experience is that when things run smoothly, runs the water where the brook is deep. When everything seems to be very easygoing, it's a lot of work behind. And Amelie and Anki, you really illustrate this. Thank you so much for your hard work. And to have a connection to the reality, the regional reality, I would like to thank Pia and Matthias for providing us with this. Without you and your exceptional knowledge about reality, us who work in headquarters, sort of on a balcony all the time. So without the connection to you, this would have been impossible. So thank you so much. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And now I leave the floor to Annie to see how can WAPES take care of some of the knowledge we have. What can WAPES do with this?
Thank you very much, Elisabet. Thank you, of course, for all this team and for your contribution and all contribution for building this program and these 2 days. I will say some words for PES and WAPES point of view, but afterwards I will give the floor to Mr. Kaffer as Presidency of WAPES. But for Vice-Presidency of WAPES for European region, perhaps some words about this event and what we learn about not only the content but also the method of this workshop. I think it's very important because how we work is often almost as important as what are we working about. And I think for this issue, which is a refugees integration issues and role of public employment services, which is a huge responsibility in European context within the world, which is a huge responsibility because we told all together that it's really important to have employment integration because employment integration is the most important in this fact. Public employment services as a main operator, provider, and implementer of public policy, public employment policy linked with partnership has a really strong role, so they have a strong responsibility. So I think in this context, this issue which was in the priority of our president of WAPES, was very important to deal with, to discuss, and to identify for these 2 days. Thank you very much to our colleagues from Arbetsförmedlingen, HMS, and Bundesagentur für Arbeit. It's also, I think, a good lesson because 3 organizations have been involved together for preparing this workshop. And this really contains an added value. I think it would be a good lesson, perhaps in European region, working together to build this kind of workshop and activities. Because within your steering committee, I suppose, you build together different points of view, different experience, and in this context, when you involve your partners and all invitation to European region, it's, I think, more easy to have this heterogeneity point of view, this diversity point of view, and I think we perhaps seems more comfortable in this case with this collective cooperative organization. So thank you for this experience. I think it was also very important. During these days, I think we also mixed some approach, which are very important for WAPES. And it's, of course, how to build our next and future experience. Strategic point of view, concrete experience, a lot of experiences for several countries, not all involved in the same manner with the challenge of refugees, but also integration of speech from partners. And the lesson from partners is very important. Please, public employment services, be more flexible. Also users, and I think it's very important to have also the point of view of the users. We had some video, we had some movies, but also we had this young man here. He is very important in this field. Lessons are to be understandable for all partners. As public employment services, if we say that we have a role to play in this issue, and we have, of course, as public employment services, when we speak within WAPES, we have to know which is the opinion of outside, not only inside, of our partners, of our users, customers, clients. It's really very important. Because if we don't imagine that, we seem to be as, I don't know, a great castle, inside the castle, we look at the castle, and not only outside, and which is around us, and all around us is very important. I think it's a great WAPES lesson too. One other lesson, which is for me very important, is that we had some speech from international organizations, OECD, OIM, and from this speech, I heard the lesson that public employment services has a serious role in this issue of integration of refugees. And what would be the lesson for WAPES? Is that we have some lessons and added value, and we have to give some result from this workshop. Being involved in this thinking, in this work, in international organization with the point of view of WAPES would be, of course, interesting, would be an added value for our organization. It's an important partnership. We want to have some, how to say, acknowledgement, but not only acknowledgement, added value on the results of the practices. Added value, see, for one point we didn't discuss a lot, but which is very important about refugees, but perhaps also for other topics, which are our data, which are our information, which would be our assessment results of implementing some politics, some programs, and for example, programs for refugees. We had an engagement now with pilot, with new experience, with some experience which have been built really quickly because this issue is the last 1 year issue. Now we have to assess what has been done. An assessment is also one point on which WAPES would be very useful. Last thing, perhaps, we were here, I think, 19 countries gathered here in this room, but we had also video. Thank you, Pierre-Alain, for this contribution. It's possible to see what has been done during this 2 days outside, overall the world. Perhaps it had not been too as viewed that it would be possible, but I think it's capitalization, it's network. It's not only in this room, but it's also to share with our colleagues. And this is also really very important. And I think dissemination of what is going in this room is very important. So I think, thank you really for this. These lessons for WAPES, I think, would be discussed afterwards. Of course, now I will give the floor to my colleague from Turkey. And really warm thanks for all of you, because I think we had great and important days here in Malmö. Thank you very much.
Thank you for everybody. I am very glad to be here. I am thankful about all partners, all participants, all presenters. Really, our responsibility about especially WAPES nowadays higher and stronger than before, because refugees problem issues very big problem. We are told in 3 days we are told all things, all good conditions. We need to eat, we need to drink, we have during these conditions. We know that, especially in Syria, 6 million people had to leave their homes and countries. And hundreds of thousands of people died in Syria. I want to say, maybe today we and humanity need to work more and talk less. I think we should be in a position, even being not able to sleep, we must be ashamed of ourselves and our humanity. If we don't evaluate this situation, even in our dreams. I want to say, we use all conditions to solve all refugees, all migration problems, especially nowadays Syrian problems affect our world. As you know, as you remember, our president 5 years ago, when Syrian war began, say all world, if conditions went bad, go bad, all world affected these bad conditions. I think necessary point word didn't understood this big message. We see all the world affect this point. During the 3 days, everybody really gave very, very important information about this. But you should imagine, Syrian refugees population, 6 million. Nowadays, in Turkey, live 3 million Syrian refugees. It isn't easy to continue the way. This means next future, everybody affect this bad condition. Therefore, we should use all conditions to give them good chance to live, to continue their life. I think everybody understands the big message, I think. Especially, really, WAPES is very, very important international organization. I think every country believe that our responsibility very high. Therefore, really we look, focus on our priority and main target, really well written, good written. But we focus on realize all things. I think everybody work to be progressive this point. Finally, I am really very happy to be here and to meet you. I hope next program, the others program, each next program will be efficiency than before, I think. Thank you very much. Thank you to meet you.
Thank you so much. And just a few information points. If you need to leave your luggage in the hotel while going to this study tour that you're going to this afternoon, you can leave it either in the room called Learning 2. It can be left in there until 4 o'clock this afternoon, or there is a luggage room on the entrance floor. And then also I want to remind you about the evaluation form. Otherwise, Margareta will chase you. And I wouldn't advise you to. And finally, in a few minutes, you will get the lunch, and also you get some information about this study visit to the local Arbetsförmedlingen. I will leave the word to Pia Gustafsson, the Market Area Manager of Arbetsförmedlingen. And I would like to thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.